you all for coming to the first ever TSR Expo. We've got some great speakers here tonight, this afternoon. Matt Deschamps, one of my close personal friends, who's now the director of Shattuck St. West. Is that officially out, or?
That's out, yeah.
So Matt is going to be directing the western part of the country for Shattuck St. which is pretty big to do. Matt's here to talk about kids in life sports. So thank you very much. And Matthew, take it away. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for having me out. When Brendan called and asked me to present, it was, at first I said, okay, should I do power play? Should I do penalty kill? And then I really started thinking about what is important for not only youth hockey, but our youth in general. So that's kind of what brought me to the topic of life sports. And trying to keep that connection with your kids throughout their entire life within a sporting environment. So for me, I had an experience where I was invited down to the Harbor Club in Boston when I was still working here in North Andover. And I was there to present on long-term athletic development models. And while I was there, an Olympic rower presented on life sports, and it was something that impacted me from that point on, and has been something that's been a thread for our family. So in going through this and building this presentation, one, I kind of wanted to give you what my background is personally and professionally. So I've been married for 13 years now. We've got 3 kids and another one on the way. I've got a 10-year-old boy, 7-year-old boy, a 2-year-old daughter, and then we're going to have another boy in September. My boys, my rule in the house is you've got to try everything. So they play hockey, they play baseball, they play soccer, they play lacrosse. They want to do wrestling, they want to do karate, and you know what? They're going to get their opportunity to do all of it. And the rule in our house is when you decide to start something, you finish. And at the end, if you decide, hey, I want to do something else, that's fine. But in our home, trying a lot of different things and learning to be an athlete and learning what it is to be an athlete, not just a hockey player. I think the skills that you learn being an athlete in all different sports sets the kids up for success later in life. So I do not coach my kids. I've coached a lot of other kids, little guys all the way up to college, but for me, the real important thing for my family is the life sports that we've chosen as a family, that we all have interest in and we do together. So we hike, we play golf together, we ski, and then tennis, and downstairs in the basement we play ping pong. For my professional background, like Brendan had just said, I just signed on with Shattuck St. Los Angeles. I'll be the hockey director there and oversee the building of that program. The last 3 years I was in college hockey as an assistant coach. Prior to that, I was in Salzburg, Austria with Red Bull as the director of that program. And then I was here in North Andover at Micro Ice for about 5 years. And I had a professional career and also played Division I college. So as we move on here, really, I got a text message today from a close buddy of mine, and he just texted me, "What are life sports?" Great question. For me, in looking at it, life sports are activities that I can participate my entire life with my family, whether I'm 39 or 89, right? Those are things that we as a family can do together, and it's not about it's not about wins and losses and who was the best. It was about the experience and the time together. And hopefully you're doing something where you're in a confined space where you have to spend time, you have to communicate, and the cell phones are away, and Netflix isn't here. It's about family time. So, we're big hikers. When we were in Salzburg, we did it a lot. I think I would say I was not a fan until I was forced to be a fan, and then now I love it. And as we go, I think this is a great example. I just found this off the internet and kind of just struck me as, a proud dad that has his family trapped.
We are about 100 feet up on the Steamboat Spring Sundown lift with the rest of the family. Everybody wave hi.
We're all trapped in the chairlift.
This is a selfie.
No, that is a seal.
You want to say anything to your friends?
Not a selfie? What is it?
Are you camera shy? So, this is where we're headed. Okay.
I don't know if you need the selfie pole, but if you really want to get good angles, you might want to invest in one of those in your list.
It's a good day. It's a far cry from the beaches of Fort Lauderdale. Okay, wait, bye. Bye. Happy 2017.
So the importance for me, right, is you're doing something together as a family. You've got that time. It's, again, you use the word confined because sometimes when the kids get older, they want to be on their own page, but it's trying to find time through sport to really focus on that family nucleus. It's really, really important. And it's time we never get back. Life sports allows us to continue, whether it's now where we have our kids, our boys are 10 and 7, but someday they're going to be 17, 25, 35, and I still want to have a connection to them. I still want to be able to be in their lives and spend as much time away from distraction, getting to know them. Because there's going to be a certain amount of time where they become their own men and they make their own decisions. But I still want to be able to have that time with them where we're connected as a family. And right now, in youth sports in general, there is so much competition for your time. You've got multiple kids. You've got one kid going to baseball, one kid going to hockey, this other guy's got a doubleheader, and this guy's got practice, and your daughter has dance. So everybody is passing, and I think in discussing these life sports, it's a decision that the family makes to say, hey, we all kind of really enjoy this, so let's carve out the time to make sure that we're going to go and participate in this as a family. So, and looking at this whole thing, I started going through my phone and pictures, and I looked at last year when I was coaching college. In 365 days, I was not in the office, so meaning just at home, 14 days out of the year, where I wasn't doing something related to my job. And this is actually pretty funny, because we've never cross-country skied. I've never skied, period, downhill. I've only snowboarded. My daughter was, you'll see, maybe a year and a half, was on my wife's back. My boys had never done it, but my wife said, this is what we're going to do. And I personally wanted a day off. I wanted to be on the couch. I probably wanted to watch TV. But I got in the car, I hemmed and hawed a little bit, and then we got there, and this happened. So, we're in the middle of nowhere in upstate New York. My wife's got my daughter on her back. My youngest son is trailing behind. My older guys up front, our golden retrievers up there too. And I couldn't think of anything better. So I've never done it before, never tried it, but as a result, you get moments like this.
Guys, look at this.
Where it's the first time your daughter's ever eaten snow.
Guys, look at this. Look at this. Oh.
And next, I mean, we talked about hiking as a family. We lived in Salzburg, and this mountain behind us was Untersberg Mountain. We lived within the city and looked at that every day for 2 years. When we transitioned to going back to the States, my wife and I, we made the plan that we're gonna climb. And the kids were in school. We had a time crunch, but we said let's do it. It was on our 10th anniversary, and like I explained it, things are never perfect in life. Relationships are never perfect, but when you can accomplish something together in this setting, in life sports, when you're hiking and you're hiking up a mountain, something changed, and you can kind of see within this slide here. So you basically got stairs to nowhere, and all it does is go up, and you've got us like, oh, this isn't bad, and then you can see Kelly, and then you figure out, no, this is really bad. This is really, really bad. And the comedy of how physically demanding it was, and then, the accomplishment when you got up together. I think that was really important and really, really impactful for our family and our relationship. And so another one for me is golf, right? We talk about it all the time, how much golf can teach you as an individual, teach your kids, but also teach your family too. We typically like to go at twilight and go as a family. We carry our own bags, and if we play 3 holes, we play 3 holes. We play country music when we play, and we like to have a good time, but we still stick to the values that we want to learn through it. Respect, patience, and etiquette, honor, problem solving, self-management, and then obviously having some laughs too. So this was this year with my older boy, setting up a shot. So the entertainment of somebody who thinks he's Tiger Woods, but boom,
There you go.
right afterwards, on the course you're learning, right? You totally whiff on a shot, you tell your dad you're gonna kill it, and then you step right back up and you hit a laser. So for me, in trying to wrap this up, it's so important to think about time and the time that you have with your family and what you can do through sports to enhance that time and enhance the impact that you have on your kids. And with life sports, it can be your grandkids, it can be your great grandkids. It's about choosing something together that impacts you and everybody finds value in and is interested in it. Some people have to grow to like it, but if the majority likes it, then you're on your way. So, in closing, just want to thank you for having me in, and sorry for putting this on. It was really an honor to come out and speak to you about their sports. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Next up, we have Mark Dennehy. Mark came, I first met Mark probably 15 years ago, 12, 15 years ago, when Mark became named coach at UMass Amherst. He, not coach at Merrimack, coming from UMass. I was upset because one of my friends was going for it. As Mark, my father reassured me, this guy's one of the great, this guy's the best guy for the gig, and I was still a little upset. I got to meet Mark. Mark is, there's three people in my life I look to that I value their opinion, and when they speak, I hold on to every word they say, because they're very smart, everything they make sense, says makes sense. I live my life and say, when I have to make a decision, what would this person do, and this person do, and one of those is Mark. So when you get to play golf with a guy that you look up to and idolize like that, it's pretty strong. So I asked Mark to come speak. He was back to me within a minute and said no problem. So we are very fortunate to have him here today. Again, one of the smartest guys that I know. So please listen to him, because his words are strong and he's smart. He gets it. So thank you guys. Thank you, Mark.
I don't know if my presentation is going to necessarily work transfer, but I know what I want to say. So first of all, unbelievable introduction. Holy smokes. I know we're one of those other people he listens to, and I would say her insight is a lot more better than mine for sure. But no, you talk about what I want for my children when they grow up is to have a passion for something, and what Brendan's done here, what Brendan and David done here with TSR, his passion for what he does is just contagious. So when he asked, I jumped at the opportunity. I'd do anything for him. He and his family have been incredible to me, Heather, and my girls. So the respect goes both ways. Matt, awesome presentation. I've known Matt for a long time, and I think there are similar values there, and really that's what we're talking about. When Brendan asked me if I'd talk, he then said, "Well, what do you want to talk about?" And I said, "Well, whatever you want." And this is a talk I've given in the past, and it's taken on many forms. The initial title for it was The Road to Nowhere, Youth Athletics. It has since changed to a different lesson. I think that was a little harsh. Unfortunately, it stuck, so I got introduced a couple times as The Road to Nowhere. I think I like different lessons. That's what sports are about, So it's a great book, and hopefully, if you leave here with anything from me, it's a book list. There's a great book called "Start with Why" by a guy by the name of Simon Sinek, and his preface is very simple. Before you do anything, start with why you want to do it. And it's an incredibly motivating question. So, has anybody ever seen a line out in front of a Dell computer store waiting for the latest version to come out? Has anybody ever seen that? How about an Apple store? You ever seen a line out in front of an Apple store? Well, they do the same things, don't they? They make computers. So here's the difference. When you see a Dell computer ad, it tells you how fast it is. We've got the best processors known to man. We've got a great screen. You can see the computer better, right? When Apple sells their product, they say, we started out making computers and we set out to change the world. why they're doing it. It's so important. So I talk all the time. My wife will tell you I've got a lot of opinions. Unfortunately, I'm more than happy to share them. They get me in trouble quite a bit. So why? I'm going to let you think about that because I'm going to ask you. This is a clip I like. I've used it a couple times. Those of you who've never seen it.
Son, he has hurt his knee.
I'm an orthopedic surgeon and would be happy to help, but first you must tell me what happened.
He has hurt his knee very badly, and we need it fixed right away. Can you fix it? Can you fix it now?
Can you tell me what happened to your son's knee?
He is an elite athlete. He is extremely talented, and he has hurt his knee. We need it fixed right away. Can you fix it?
I will try, but please tell me what happened to his knee. What kind of athlete is he?
He is elite.
I see, but can you tell me specifically what type of athlete he is?
He is talented. More specifically, he is gifted. Now will you fix his knee? We need it done soon.
I can give it a shot, but I need more information. Perhaps you can tell me what sport he plays.
Yes, he plays every sport, and he is elite. He is being scouted, and he will soon have a scholarship, so we need him fixed now.
Can you tell me where your son is currently?
He is at the gym training.
You did bring him with you?
His coach says that he must train. The scouts are looking at him.
How old is your son?
He is 6.
It is 10 in the morning. Shouldn't he be in school?
He cannot afford to be in school, not if he is going to get a scholarship.
Maybe we should talk about this. You say that he is an elite athlete. He is 6 years old. How did you come to the conclusion that he is elite?
His coach. His coach told us, and he is a professional.
The coach of your 6-year-old is a professional?
Yes, we know he is a professional because we pay him. We pay.
It's only funny because it's true, right? It's only funny because you probably know someone on your team who is in the same boat. So why? Why do you put your children in youth sports? Why have you chosen to put your children in youth sports? Anyone? It's fun.
Stay
Sorry?
active.
Stay active. All great reasons. Yeah. I grew up in Dorchester. My mother put me in hockey to stay off the streets, right? To learn how to make friends, to learn how to set goals, to learn how to work together with teammates. Sports can be an incredible. Let me rephrase that. A good friend of mine who I work with quite a bit. He's a former Marine platoon, Special Forces platoon leader. He runs a leadership development program. He's got a 6-year-old son, and he coached his 6-year-old son's lacrosse team. And as most Marines would do, he sent the parents a letter. In the letter, a couple highlights that I really liked was, sports do not teach life lessons. Parents and coaches do through sports. And I think that's really important. Sports themselves don't necessarily teach life lessons, but the coaches of those sports and the parents do, because there's great opportunities to teach. In some cases, this is your first opportunity to do it. I encourage us all to take that opportunity. He writes down the bottom, my wife has provided guidance to me and suggested that I do not offer my thoughts on habitual tardiness, now this is a Marine, or on parents who complain about the weather until we all become more familiar with each other. I love my wife and always appreciate her guidance and suggestions. As I said, his son is now 8. You ask Axel if there's any such thing as bad weather, and he'll say, nope, just weak people. Right? There's your life lesson. There's your life lesson. So we talk about life lessons, right? What can you learn from sports? Well, think about some of the most powerful lessons in our society. Who knows what the Ice Bucket Challenge is? What's the Ice Bucket Challenge, Trey?
It's when you pour so many songs instead of stuff there.
Yep. To raise awareness and raise money for it. Do you know how it started? Anybody?
Former PC baseball player.
Former Boston College baseball player, Pete Frates, who had ALS. Think about the billions of dollars that have been raised, the millions of people that are aware of ALS because of what Pete Frates and what he learned in sports. Okay? Who's Thomas Junkin?
Is he from Reading?
He's the man that was charged with manslaughter for murdering someone at a shinny hockey game, right? Which is awful to even think about. But sports can take you to that side of it. Two lessons, right? Two lessons. One's a positive, one's a negative, right? So let's choose to use the positive. So I got a picture here, right? You guys might see this or might not. Let's first of all get something straight, all right? See that there? That's Sidney Crosby. That's elite. That's elite. That's Sidney Crosby as a youth hockey player, right? That's recreational. You can't be elite at 8. Doesn't exist, right? You're just, if you're starting, you're 8 years old, you're just the best of the worst. You're just the best of the worst. You're not elite. It's okay to aspire to be elite, but you're not elite, okay? And you're not professional. And I'll talk a little bit about the professionalization of youth sports and what it's doing to us, all right? So, this isn't kumbaya, this isn't participation trophies. You guys might want to get out of the sun. It's hot. I was sitting there for a little bit, and I was smoking.
Go right over, guys.
I coach ice hockey for a living, okay? If you don't win, you lose your job. So this isn't kumbaya. This isn't everybody get a trophy, right? I want there to be elite athletes coming out of Massachusetts, New England, right? But the reality is the numbers have gone down. So how are we doing in this area? In 2003, there were 185 Division I hockey players from Massachusetts in 2003, okay? In 2016, there were 112. That's a 40% decrease. 40%. I'll say it again. That's a 40% decrease. No other state in the country was in double digits, and only 3 other states had negative numbers. All the other ones grew. Okay? In terms of the NHL, so I like to use Sweden as an example, because Sweden has the exact same number of U18 boy hockey players as Massachusetts. Same number. If Massachusetts was a country, it would be the 8th largest country in hockey. Right? So, how are we doing? In 2016 and 17, there were 16 Massachusetts-born players in the NHL. Wow, that seems like a lot, 16. Massachusetts, we're a small state. Sweden had 66. Sweden had 66 NHL players, and what else do they have, Matt? They've got a way better development plan, and they've got 2 pro leagues in their own country. So they've got 2 pro leagues in their own country that some of our players go and play in, and they put 66 players in the NHL because of their development model, right? Their development model, which they don't keep standings until the kids are over 12 years old. Massachusetts was one of the last states to adopt the ADM model because it's not real hockey. They play 3-on-3. Okay? I'll be honest with you, I've been coaching for 26 years. I have never gone to a game and said, wow, that kid played the heck out of a left wing tonight. Wow, he's just a really good left defenseman. What I've said is, that's a hockey player. That guy can handle the puck. That guy can skate. That guy sees the ice. He can handle it in tight spaces, and he can shoot it. Doesn't matter what position you play. As a matter of fact, there are colleges, a good friend of mine coaches a Division III school, and they're working on positionless hockey. They're working on positionless hockey. So again, this isn't kumbaya, right? It's, I want more people to play, and I'll tell you why, right? But I also want elite players coming from this area. I'm from this area. I'm proud of this area. I grew up in the era of Billy Guerin and Jeremy Roenick, Tony Amonte. Okay, I want good players, a lot of them, not just a couple, which is what we're doing right now. So where do good players come from? Where do elite players come from? Okay, For me, it's you got to be genetically inclined, and you have to have a passion. That's it, right? So let's use nature and nurture, a combination. If you don't have one of the two, if you're not genetically inclined, it's not going to happen for you. Sorry, you can overachieve, you can go further than people think you will, but if you don't have a genetic inclination, you're not going to get to the highest levels. Period. Right? If you have the genetic makeup, but you don't have the passion, you will get found out. You will get found out. So let's talk a little bit about passion, because I hear this all the time. My dentist, I got into a debate with my dentist a couple years ago, and she said, well, my son he just loves it. I'm like, well, why is he playing hockey in June, May? He just loves it. I said, you know what, you're right. My daughters, I've got 3 daughters, they love chocolate. They love it. You know what my job as a parent is?
Make sure they don't have
Enough chocolate. Enough chocolate. Okay? And so it's hard. The hardest part, and I'm a parent, and I used to badmouth hockey parents until I became one. And I took my daughter to swimming lessons, and the teacher didn't pay enough attention to her, and I grabbed him by the ear and I pulled him over. I get it. It's hard to say no to your children. It's hard. Right? But that's your job. That's our job. It is. When enough is enough. And that's where I think youth sports put us all in a tough position. Because here's a lesson from sports, right? You start something, you finish it, you see it through. Right? You guys have heard that lesson before, right? You start something, you see it through. Well, even in town hockey, you could have 3 practices in a week, two games. They don't care what your school schedule is. My wife and I have had to tell the girls, you're not going to practice. Do I want them to not go to practice? No, that's not necessarily a lesson I want to teach them. But guess what? They've got homework they've got to do. They've got a project that's due. And the week has been just inundated with youth sports. And that's kind of where we are. So, back to nature and nurture. Who's ever read or who's heard of Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell? Who can explain it a little bit?
10,000 hour rule.
Okay, it's right here. What is the 10,000 hour rule? So here's the beauty of it. So when people think of Malcolm Gladwell and Outliers, that's the first thing they think about is the 10,000 hour rule. Explain the 10,000 hour rule to me.
So you need to practice or put in 10,000 hours of work to get really, really good at something.
So here's the beauty of it. Couple things. I used to recommend Outliers to parents until I realized that every parent reads the book like their kid is the outlier. That's impossible statistically. You can't all your children can't be outliers. You can love them like they're an outlier, but they statistically can't be an outlier. Okay? So the 10,000 hour rule actually wasn't Malcolm Gladwell's. It was a sociologist named Erickson. And here's the bad news. And I gave this bad news to one of my freshmen a couple years ago who had 10,000 hours tattooed on his arm. And I love messing with freshmen. I said, you realize 10,000 hours is just the average, right? It could be 40,000 hours and you might never get there. Or it could be you're genetically inclined and it only takes you 1,000 hours. And his head exploded, right? It's a bastardized rule, right? First of all, it is meant for particular things like chess, piano, gymnastics, potentially golf. Not all sports, not every activity. And number 2, it's an average. You may never get there, right? You may never get there. So I'm not going to recommend Outliers. I will recommend a book by Dave Epstein called The Sports Gene. And he talks about how big a role genetics play. And the stat he gives that I like is, if you are a 7-foot tall male between the ages of 24 and 32 living in the United States right now, there's a 17% chance you're in the NBA. If you're not 7 feet, that percentage drops dramatically, right? If you're not 5'2" and 85 pounds, you're probably not going to be a jockey, no matter how many hours you put in. Okay? So if you have to bet between genetics or nature or nurture, take genetics. Take genetics. But that doesn't mean you can't still love the game. Okay? And it's really important that we grow the game. It's really important that we grow the game. Because as Dave Epstein says, the more players you have playing it, the better chance you have of the elite athletes. Why? They make each other better. There's a competition piece there. Sure. Guys might emerge and look better. Okay? It's genetics. The more tickets in the lottery that you buy, the better chances you have of winning. But what we've done here is we've created silos. If you don't make the U8, best player I've ever coached, Stéphane Costa. Grew up in Paris, France. Played over there. I don't know how he got to the NHL without playing in the EHF. I don't know how he did it. I think it's impossible, right? You can't get there without playing in the EHF, right? No. The more players you have, the better chance you have of having elite athletes. You want to build the base. That's what you want to do, right? And that's what Brendan and the people at TSR are trying to get more people involved in sports. Now, again, I'm on the same. I've heard the same spiel you have. There isn't a coach that my kids have played for that haven't said, "I'm against specialization." Right? I'm against specialization. All right. Well, hockey starts on Memorial Labor Day and ends at the end of April, and it's 4 to 5 days a week. I don't know about you, but when else can they do anything? So it's nice to be against it, but until the model shifts. So where is it positive? You look at Minnesota. Minnesota high school hockey's bigger than anything in the state, right? They've got more three-sport athletes than anyone, yet they continue to develop great hockey players. They continue to develop great hockey players. I think we've got somebody from Minnesota this morning. They continue to develop. Now, guess what? As it starts to privatize, right? And I don't want to get political on you, but capitalism or youth sports is a great business model. It's not a very good development model. The professionalization of youth sports is a great business model. Parents will do anything for their children. Okay? It's not as good a development model. Communal. Last book I'll recommend is Range. It's by David. It's by Dave Epstein. It's his new book, and it's about sports specialization and how factually, it is not good for development. Roger Federer, at 14, 15 years old, had to decide whether he was going to be a great soccer player or tennis player, and he could do either. I just told you, Stéphane Costa was probably the best player I coached while he was at Merrimack. We had Division II tennis, where they were in the NCAAs. He beat the number one player there at tennis. He would have started at forward on the soccer team. When I grew up, the hockey players were the best athletes. They were the shortstops, they were the quarterbacks. Now I watch my guys play basketball, and it's embarrassing. I get them off the court, I'm like, number one, I don't want you to get injured. Number two, oh my God, have you ever shot a basketball? That is embarrassing. So, start with why. Give me some reasons. Why else do you want to put your children in sports?
So they have a healthy outlet for life of an athlete, and then carry it into, like Matt was saying, into as they get older.
Absolutely.
But they can start now learning different sports, lots of sports.
Yep.
To carry them as they get older and just be healthy.
I think that's a great reason. That's a good reason.
One thing is building the friendship and then growing as they get older. They're young boys.
Yes.
And school friendship and all of that. Teaching them
And
the right
girls.
way. And girls, yes, I guess. Helps them build a strong foundation.
So it's really important that the people who are the guardians of the game, and that's how I'll end here, whether it's coaches or whether it's parents, recognize that. You are, so sports in and of themselves don't teach great life lessons. Coaches and parents, through the use of sports, teach great life lessons. And I think it's just like you know, if your son or daughter's teacher was screaming at them in class, would you stand for that? Why is it okay in sports? Who's the winningest coach in college hockey of all time?
Jerry York?
Has anybody ever gone to a game that Boston College has played? Have you ever watched the bench? Have you ever seen Jerry York yell? Once. So why don't we emulate that? Why don't youth coaches emulate that? Now I don't stand here, right? I don't stand. I understand that I shouldn't be throwing stones either, right? Because I'm a sinner too. We were actually at Boston College once playing. I was coaching at Merrimack, and one of the gentlemen who was wearing a striped shirt blew his whistle and made an announcement that I wasn't happy with, to which I showed off my best St. Anne's Dorchester verbiage, upon which I looked behind the glass and my kids were right behind me. Thankfully, they weren't lip readers at that point in their life, and it was soundproof glass. But after that game, what I thought about was the Jerry Yorks, the Scotty Bowmans, the best coaches that I've ever coached. They don't yet. They're teachers, they coach. And so, if you don't accept it in school, don't accept it on the playing field, don't accept it on the ice, and take action. You see a parent in the stands screaming and yelling, that's not okay. That's not all right. One of the most important things, and then I'll open up to questions, right? We want our children to respect authority. Who's the authoritative figure in most sporting events? Who runs the game? Referees. So we want them to respect authority. If you're screaming at the referees, what are you teaching your child? Not to respect authority. Questions? I'll leave you with some thought. Yes?
So you have a two sport athletes. When I was a kid, that was huge. You did all three sports. Now it's really taken up by the population of doing hockey year round. Or baseball,
Dance is the same way.
Dance, baseball, they're all becoming that way. Being at the college level, are you seeing that decrease now? Are you seeing just really kind of a one sport athlete not doing anything else? Or are you still seeing your baseball, hockey players and doing others?
Well, when I played at Boston College, our team was, the majority of our players were from Massachusetts. Like almost all of them. And the other ones were from New England. And the same thing about, for the most part, at BU, or we can't do that anymore. Right? So, we're going to Europe. So, at the highest levels, no, we're going to get the best players. You know, we're going to get the best players. And they're going to go through what we're talking about. That's why we have to go to Sweden. That's why we have to go to Finland. Right? Because they're doing a better job of developing players per capita than anyone. Right? Malcolm Gladwell's funny. He's Canadian. He says, there's a reason why sports specialization doesn't really affect Canada. Because they just put everybody in the sport. Right? Everybody in Canada just plays hockey. So, they're able to overcome sort of that, because they've got a broad base. Whereas in the U.S., there are pockets of it. What you're seeing in certain pockets is the numbers stagnating. We're not growing. On the girls' side, it's growing still, but on the boys' side, it's not growing, and it's something. Now the good news, as I said, is we've developed, we've embraced the ADM model, and I think it is having an effect, right? If I live in Andover, and I'm going over with, I apologize. And they have the Charlie Heseltine tournament, which started out as a small event. Now it's one of the kids' favorite events, right? No positions, 3-on-3. You get more puck touches. It's a smaller area, and the ability to play in a small area is what differentiates players going up. When you play full ice, like I coached my daughters, was one of the coaches on my daughter's U10 team. We spent 60% of our time lining them up for face-offs. It was one of the biggest wastes of time I think I've ever. And when you have that type of ice surface, right? And the players are small. What happens is the best player gets the puck. Who's ever seen this? And they can skate better than everybody, and they just skate away from everybody. You can't do that in a small surface. You can't do that in a small surface. You can't do that at the NHL. You can't do that in the AHL. You can't do that in college. Right? And that's why those kids kind of get to a certain point, and when they can't skate the ice, and they can't think the game in a short amount of whatever, that is kind of, you know. And then my daughter, my middle daughter, she didn't want to play hockey until she was 12. But because she played soccer, even though she was behind athletically, she understood angles, and she picked it up very quickly, and she understood how to play the sport. Because most sports translate. Most sports translate. Any other questions? Awesome. Thanks for coming. I think it's great what Brendan's doing.
Powerful stuff. We have all this on, this will all be on our YouTube and Facebook pages. I think it's YouTube with the video that long. But Mark will be, these videos will be able to see again. Next up, we have Vinny Tolulo from Mike Boyle's. Vinny's here to speak about proper training at proper ages and everything like that. We don't need 12-year-olds. I'll let Vinny explain it, but we don't need 12-year-olds pumping up 200. Yeah. Maddie, turn that on.